Now it is my great pleasure to introduce my next guest, which is the Queen of Common Sense, Nana Akua.
Oh, thank you. What a nice intro.
Well, thanks for joining me. Listen, Nana, we're going to dive straight into it. There was an article run last week about this charity. I know you did a little bit about it on your show, describing vaginas as bonus holes.
Yeah, so it was this cancer trust charity, so Joe's Cancer Trust. And what they were doing, it was for women who now believe they're men, who have transitioned, so that the vagina is now surplus in their view, so therefore to detach themselves from the reality that they actually have a vagina, because obviously once you've gone through this sort of change, which ultimately I believe is simply, it's a cosmetic surgery, isn't it really? You now have this hole that you have to deal with. So they're calling it the bonus hole, because if you're a man, you wouldn't have two holes.
Do you find it offensive?
I find it totally dehumanising and pretty degrading, actually. Why on earth would you want to sort of manipulate the language in such a way that kind of degrades the vagina, which is what it is. It's a vagina. You can't get away from the fact that you have a vagina. Even if you want to be or you believe you are a man, you are still a biological female, therefore you will have a vagina.
See, the trans community are a tiny percentage of our community. I also believe there's another community that lie awake at night thinking of silly things to say the following day. And I think this idiot is not, I said it on Twitter last week, he's not a front hole, he's not a bonus hole, he's probably an for coming up with something like this. It's absolutely ridiculous. But this opens, another argument, a wider debate into the whole trans debate at the moment. We seem to be spending far too much time talking about these issues like changing rooms, like safe spaces, etc. When actually, when you go out there in the real world, knocking on doors and speaking to people, nobody's actually talking about this nonsense. Who are these people, Nana?
Well, look, I think that there are people who are concerned about this weird sort of silent overreach and encroachment of this ideology into society. Yeah. It's fair enough if someone feels that they're not a man or a woman, that's fair enough, but we cannot be adjusting the language in a way. And I think it is important actually to focus on it. And a lot of parents like me are concerned about it. I mean, I went to my son's school the other day and I asked, are you teaching any gender stuff? And they said, no, we're not doing that. Because I'm concerned. You hear reports of one recent story about in a school where a girl was, sexually assaulted in the so-called unisex toilets. And there's a reason why these areas are segregated, not because all men are predators, but because the reason why women are segregated from men in this way is because women are more vulnerable. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, schools especially, children are very impressionable. Yeah. Sometimes it can be fashionable to do something which is not quite, the right thing to do. Teachers. I mean,
what's going on?
What part are they playing in this?
Well, I think that, to me, a level of it is there's a level of indoctrination, isn't it? An adult belief system that has now been projected onto the kids that hasn't been validated by any actual legitimate source, and the majority of us don't agree with it. So, for example, on one thing, somebody took their child to a doctor and they said, and they had to fill in how you identify as. These are young children. They asked how they identify as, and were given 4 options: boy, girl, non-binary or trans. It was like, when did those options become an agreed decision by all? We haven't made that decision.
Look, I know times move on. When I was a child, and probably you're a little bit younger, a lot younger than me. Well, you certainly look a lot younger than me now.
Thank you, dear. It's very, very well said.
Boys played with soldiers and action men, and girls played with dollies, and we sort of accepted that as normal. And I know there's nothing wrong with a boy playing with a doll. There's nothing wrong with a girl playing with soldiers and action men. But we've gone a little bit too far, haven't we? Well,
we have. And I find it incredible that when you ask that simple question, what is a woman? Because people say, you can take gender away from biology and everything. So I say, OK, you identify as a woman. What is a woman? Yeah. They cannot say adult human female because they've said it's disassociated from biology. Yeah. So what is a woman? And then it becomes your own perception of what a woman is. Therefore, it becomes a nonsense scale of lots of different elements of gender. So there are millions and millions and millions of gender underneath that notion because everyone is an individual. So there has to be a biological structure that everyone agrees with what a woman is.
So why do you think some politicians haven't got the guts or the balls to say what a woman is?
Because they're too busy sitting on the fence because they want to try and get everybody's vote, but they don't realise that in doing that they're excluding literally 50% of the population who are looking at this and thinking, just say what a woman is. That's fine. We accept it. Stop pandering to an ideology which is not a reality, and stop trying to make out that they can disassociate gender from biology, when if you're asked that simple question of what a woman is, you can't answer it.
And actually, at the moment now, it's turning nasty as well. We
Yeah,
saw last week, we saw a trans activist who I think had been in prison for about 30 years, you know, saying to people on this demo, go out and punch people.
Yes, because he identified as a woman. And if you were a woman, that is literally, as in the woman's brain, if you believe you are a woman, which I believe I am, and I know I am as I'm an adult human female, it's not really in my mindset to go out and punch someone. It's more a male masculine trait that they are demonstrating by doing that.
Right, look, I mean, it's an interesting conversation, and I could go on all day with you talking about this. It's absolutely, well, I don't know, it takes up far too much time, I think.
Do you think?
I think it does, because, like I say, in the real world, you know, my mum says to me, I'm a woman, I've had 3 kids, I know what a woman is, you know, and it's as simple as that for the vast majority of people in this country. But the thing that concerns me is the schools.
Yeah, it's the encroachment.
It's that bit where we should be protecting our children,
That's
we should be holding the teachers to account and making sure, you know, you're not indoctrinating my child to listen to this nonsense anymore. But look, that's been a brilliant discussion again with the Queen of Common Sense. And we're going to go to Agony Anderson next, where my mailbag has been bulging again this week. We've got some real serious problems coming in, and who better to help me this week than Nana Akua. So, Nana, the first one out the mailbox this week is from a lady called Rachel, and she says, my daughter doesn't want to go to university, and I'm worried that she won't be able to get a degree, or get a good job without a degree. How do I convince her to go to university?
Well, I'd say, Rachel, that you don't convince her to go to university, because if people don't want to do things, they don't do a very good job on them. I would say that there are loads of things they could do, like the be-all and end-all isn't university. I'd say they could do an apprenticeship. If there's something they're passionate about, they could get some experience in the thing that they want to do. Find out what her daughter wants to do, and see if there's a route that she can do it without university. And in most cases, there is. University is incredibly expensive. You come out with 70, 80,000, up to £100,000 worth of debt. You might actually be better off. She might end up wasting her money. If she doesn't want to do it, don't make her do it. Find what she loves, find what her passion is, and she can find a route to it.
So I guess, Rachel, let your daughter follow her dreams.
Yeah, let her follow her dreams and help her to facilitate that, and look for ways that you can help her get to that don't include university.
OK, Nana, have you got one for me?
I have got one for you.
Come on, then.
This is a tricky one, Lee. This is from Sam. She says, he says, Lee, I'm really worried about my mortgage. My fixed rate ends in 7 months at current rates. I'm due to pay an extra £550 per month. I've not had a pay rise for 2 years, and even if I had, it wouldn't cover my new mortgage. What is the government doing to help those of us who are genuine, hard-working folk?
It's a great question, Nana. Jeremy Hunt, as you know, last month met with the major lenders and to discuss this new mortgage charter, which allows borrowers now to go into an interest-only mortgage, which will help them in the short term for 6 months. They can extend the length of the mortgage, which will help keep the repayments low. And this won't affect their credit score at all. So people have got that little bit of insurance. And also the repossession period, because sometimes the banks are pretty quick at starting the repossession period. It's not in their interest, really, to repossess properties, but that's been delayed for an extra 12 months. So there's 3 protections there. Look, I know it's not ideal. I know people are struggling. But I was up onto my day when I bought my first house. I paid 15% the mortgages was, and that was a real struggle for me. But, I mean, luckily for me, on a 15% mortgage, there was only one way that mortgages were going. That was down, down, down. And through the 90s, they did go down to a more affordable rate. So I would say people that's looking at their interest rates now, hopefully, within the next 6 months to a year, we should start seeing them interest rates come down. And hopefully these 3 measures in the mortgage charter will help people get through that tough period.
I mean, let's hope they do, though, because, you know, the way it looks to me, the banks seem to have set this thing where they've looked at how much people can afford, and those rates have gone up accordingly, which I think is a little bit unfair. They can see all your money, so then they're working out, well, they can afford that, they can pay that. It's very unfair. These measures are good, but ultimately people will have to pay, if it's not fixed in about 12 months or so, it may even be higher than that, and that is the worry for a lot of people.
Yeah. Is that the bell, Nana?
I think
it's last orders at the bar. So coming shortly, we've got me and Tom